had to report every month to the military personnel of whatever sector they were in. And so they knew from day one where every one of these people was, and they were, you know, allowed to do certain things or not allowed to do certain things. My father happened to be originally from what became East Germany, but he was allowed to stay in the British part because my mother lived there, and he lived there as a refugee and was not allowed to go back to, not that he wanted to, but was not allowed to go back. So when the U.S. decided they wanted more resources, they knew exactly how to contact these people.
Great explanation, thank you.
There's-
Wagner Klaus, she actually married one of the children also. Reiner Klaus.
I have a little something to add to that too.
Okay.
I'm collecting memoirs from people.
Yes.
Anyway, one of them I got is from Reiner Klaus's dad. Reiner gave it to me. And there he goes through that period where they were, you know, some people got selected and others didn't. There's a story there, but it hasn't quite been told. Like there was some kind of unhappiness between the people that went and the ones that didn't go. Anyway, there is more to the story, but I haven't found anything to say.
Roughly.
You know, it's
2,000
really
would
the
make
emotional
one.
content of it.
And also, not all 6,000 or however many of these that did not go with the original, they were not all physically at Peenemünde
Right.
with von Braun.
Right.
So
They were
when the
working
war
at
ended, they
universities,
were scattered.
in industry.
And only the ones that were physically there with him were even considered to go.
In the very beginning.
Or who made it down to Bavaria.
Right.
That's where the main choice was made.
And again, they were not all selected. For example, I had an uncle that was not selected, but he got out of there before the Russians came, and he went to South America. He ended up in Argentina for a period.
Yes, amazing what happened with the
Yeah,
families.
they scattered. They did not want any part of the Russian regime.
There was a price on their heads if they had stayed. Yes, Peter, Denzel.
One thing I want to add to his question is this first group that came over, the first 120 or whatever, the U.S. people interviewed them, and they decided who they wanted and who they didn't want, and in some cases it was a character issue.
And von Braun gave them an original list too, right, to
Yeah,
work
but
from.
there were some people, I always heard the stories from my mother, there were some people that were rejected for character issues. So, you know, it was basically, you had to be selected, you had to be approved to come home.
Yeah. Yeah, yes.
You mentioned that a lot of the families moved to Blossomwood and to Montesano. Was that a deliberate effort to create a German community?
No.
Because they could have moved places all over, close to Redstone or something, or was that just the land that was available?
Correct.
Some
It
did.
would happen to
Although
be
I
where
did.
land was
Mhm.
available
Although I
at the
moved.
time, and they were starting to build,
Just
new
off Oakwood.
houses.
I mean,
Now, the Montesano story, Doretta
Oh,
Schlitz told me
okay. On the
that
hill.
one of the Army fellows, after they had had their discussions here at Redstone, before the German team moved here, they had discussions, and one of the fellows, an Army guy, brought back a map, which I'm guessing is very similar to what you've got back there, a map of Montesano with these lots on it. And they sat around the tables at night prior to their coming to Huntsville. The gentleman did, and they were trying to decide, do we want to buy a lot here or there? So not all of them made choices at that point, and they decided once they got here. But for us, there were about 20 of the families that bought, like Peter's family and ours, about 20 families bought in Colonial Hills, which was the only new neighborhood at the time where there were some houses available. Then when my grandparents were coming to visit in 1955, we needed a bigger house, so we ended up, and Blossomwood was being developed at the time. So I'm guessing you were there first on Sauerkraut Hill, and then the other streets were being developed because it was just a cornfield.
Anyway, there was no coordinated effort to build any kind of German community.
No.
It was just wherever you could find. In fact, it's my understanding that you had to go to the Chamber of Commerce downtown, and they kept a list there of any available housing, so apartments and so forth. And so you worked with the Huntsville Chamber to make sure where the next possible place was. Yes, and Reiner
You need
might.
to point out too, that in 1950, there wasn't much housing available in
No.
Huntsville, Alabama.
16,000
We all came
folks
to
here.
town, it was
That's
a
right.
big
Yeah.
search to try to find available housing.
And remember
It went
about,
on for a long time.
and it was not just the German families, it was also about 2,000 Army families, because there was an Army ordnance group that was with them. So this is a huge influx all at once.
And how many of these German families like yourself still live on this original lot? So, do you have any idea that they,
Not very many,
My
probably.
mother is still in her
Well, you
house.
too, yeah. And you live in your mother's house now.
No, well, they moved, and later on, I bought that
You
house.
bought the house from them, okay.
And,
So some families have stayed.
But we started out on Locust Street, and I think a lot of it was by word of mouth because of availability. If you look on Locust, there was Old Locust that went all the way to Tennessee Avenue, which crossed Locust. It's parallel to California. And you have Colorado, and then you have Tennessee, if you go down that old part of town. And they were starting to build those houses just past Tennessee. And I forgot the next one. Let's see.
No, he's going
Parallel.
No,
Tennessee.
I'm going down, but you were at the end of the,
Yeah,
you were at the end.
next to Owens.
Yeah,
Amelia-
next to Owen,
Amelia's
yeah.
one of them. Brzezinski's
And I
lived
think the
there.
Schillings had that corner
Yeah,
house,
they
that
did.
corner
At the end
property,
one,
yeah,
the
because
end
I
of
was
Locust.
friend with Hartman.
No, I remember they said, that's a corner lot, you're gonna have to pay more taxes. You're further up in the ranks, you have to have that lot.
Yeah,
Dr.
that's
Schilling,
the way
that's how-
Dr. Schilling got
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I was friends with one of his sons.
Okay, someone
Yeah,
has a
or-
question.
Yeah,
Hotwood.
no, Hotwood.
Hot-
We're in the same class.
Okay, question?
No, actually,
Yeah.
I'm second generation. I'm Ursula's daughter. I'm not gonna stand up, I have a knee injury. But my husband and I have bought Dr. Tiller's house on Montesano, and I can tell you that we have removed all the lamp cord wires. It's safe.
All right.
They gutted it to,
Yeah.
just gutted it to the studs.
Yo, based upon your information you had, was there much animosity from the Americans with the Germans coming? 49, 50?
Well, I can tell you my experience. I felt no animosity in going to school. I had Jewish friends. I mean, zero.
Yeah. Same here.
In El Paso, in Fort Bliss, I'm not so sure. And I started kindergarten there and went through up to a part of the 4th grade, and then when we moved to Huntsville, I was in the 4th grade. And started out actually at 5th Avenue, and then it wasn't long, we moved to East Clinton, in that area. I lived in the old Nugent apartments. Talking about resourcefulness, I lived on an army cot for years. That was my bed. I mean, there just wasn't any money.
You know,
But
There-
friends, we had American friends. My parents had American friends. It was good.
you know, when we were placed in the El Paso City Schools, there were usually 2 or 3 of us per classroom, 2 or 3 of us Germans. But they were extremely friendly. In fact, is one of the friends I made in 5th grade at Houston School, she and I corresponded for many years after that. So, like I said, there was only one teacher who was not real fond of the Germans, but everybody else was extremely welcoming.
They were-
I can throw in a few incidents. My Lederhosen pride ended one day. I was in swimming classes at the Y, and somebody took my Lederhosen and put them in the showers. Anyway, things do happen. And then I know my name is Klaus. A lot of times when I'm introduced to Jewish people, you can almost see, you know, the Holocaust always hangs over that relationship. And I've had people be pretty direct with me on that. So it's very understandable, and,
But overall, the reception was very good.
Yeah.
It sounds like. That's
Yeah.
good.
It was very good,
Yes.
overall.
In the Huntsville, I'll share a story that Erica Wiesmann gave me. The Huntsville city leaders were extremely welcoming to the group. She told a story of when they got here in about March, so they were kind of the preview party, because you'd said, like you said, April, the family started arriving. So this was a preview group. It was Von Braun, and I know it was Erica and her husband, Walt Wiesmann. She said, we went to the Russell Erskine Hotel, and it's the only high-rise hotel in town. And we went to the front desk, and then we met the city leaders, and they've got these brown bags. Well, it was a dry county back then, you have to remember. So she thought this was so strange, they were going up to a room. Well, they set aside a room, a very nice room, and so they go upstairs, and then they all stand around and they bring out bottles, probably bourbon and stuff, out of these brown bags, and they share a drink to toast the Germans coming to town. I thought that was so cool. So yes, the city was very welcoming. They tried to make, and Von Braun was good about that. He tried to keep them. We've got a panel that we're doing, I believe, for next year. That's the bit about the, about the connection
Right.
that they made, that they kept those communication lines open. There was a special counsel, wasn't there, Jack?
Yes,
So-
it was the city council,
Right.
that, and the university, UAH has been formed, so that was part of it.
Right. Okay. Questions? Any others? Yes?
I'd like to make an announcement, if I may. If you've ever wondered why Huntsville streets are named what they are, you can find out here Sunday at 2 o'clock at the Huntsville Historical Society meeting.
Block by block, almost.
So we've got some projects going. Remember the archives, and if you'd like some help with your archives to get those turned in, please get your name on a list back there.
memoirs.
To sign up for oral histories and memoirs, yes. Klaus is collecting memoirs, your stories, similar to what we've had here today. So we are.
I will eventually contact you personally.
To try to get these stories captured. And that's interesting, because Klaus came back to help take care of his mother, and so he said, hey, this needs to be captured, hearing the stories at the last panel. So he has taken on that.
Well, but just the idea of the book is all these individual stories, everybody's got a personal drama.
Some unique stories.
Yeah, but running through them are, different things like adapting to the South, adapting to life in Huntsville, being bombed out in Germany. There are these threads that run through the different stories, which makes it entertaining to read as a collection, even if you don't know the people or anything about them. It's something of general interest.
I think an interesting thing with our family, I'm Jordan's wife, is my children are first generation Americans, but my side fought the Revolutionary War. So when people ask them, they say, well, first generation American, and it's founded the country. So.
Unique history. Thanks for sharing that. All right, with that, we will bid you adieu, and the next one is.
How's your mother doing?
She's all right. Good. She's got problems with her.